Hey everyone, I'm Matt and I'm back, and today we're talking about my very first operating session on 26th Street Station. It was something that I was kind of nervous about going in, but I had a great time. I streamed it live on this channel for anyone who wanted to watch it earlier this week. I learned quite a bit, and I'm going to share some of that with you today and talk about what I'm going to be changing moving forward. So I will say I was pretty nervous about operating this layout for the first time for a number of reasons. The biggest one being I wasn't quite sure if I was even going to like it. The type of operation that makes up most of what I'm doing here on this layout is pretty complex, honestly. I've got a lot of yard tracks that are pretty tight. I've got this car float that has its own interesting way that it needs to be worked in order for it to be realistic. And generally up to this point, every layout I've designed has had interesting operations, but much simpler operations, because for me personally, I do really love operations, but I do not like feeling overwhelmed by them. If I'm visiting somebody's layout, I generally do not like operating the yard at all, for that very reason. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like if I don't do it right, people are going to hate me, having to wait on me. I really enjoy serving small industries, you know, pulling loads and shoving a string of empties down a spur. That kind of thing has always been really fun for me. And generally, I've designed my layouts around that kind of experience. But 26th Street Station is all about packing as much track and as many car spots into as small a space as possible, and just figuring out a way around it. It had me pretty nervous. Was I going to like it? And the truth is, I really loved it. I had a great time with it. I enjoyed the challenge. I made a lot of mistakes. We'll go over a couple of those here in a second. And so that just means the next time around I'm going to have fun kind of working out ways to correct those mistakes. My biggest mistake I probably made was live streaming the operating session. I'm going to continue to live stream those because I do enjoy interacting with everyone on YouTube. But I wasn't really paying attention to the layout, and so I made a few mistakes that meant I had to kind of go back and pick up cars that I left on a siding, or other things like that. The biggest mistake I made, if you watch the video, was right away going for the car float and trying to unload the car float and then take it to the yard. What I should have done was pull everything from the yard that I needed to go on the car floats, and then do the job of exchanging cars from the car float, exchanging cars from the yard with those on the car float. That would have been the sensible thing to do. I didn't do that. But you live and you learn. I also ran into an issue with sort of the loading and unloading of the car float, in just that I don't have enough space to unload a full float of cars and go and put it in the yard somewhere. So I kind of got to do one string at a time. I'm going to look for ways to alleviate some of that in the future, but it was like I'm placing cars. I know what I was doing was unprototypical, which was placing cars kind of just over here on the float bridge, and not keeping them on the float or putting them in the yard like I should have. One of the great things that happens with an operating session is you quickly learn the flaws in your design that you didn't really realize you had in there before. My biggest flaw was that I am using this double crossover here as one end of a runaround for my locomotive and my cars. What that means is that I can only have a total of 2 cars plus a locomotive on this piece of track at a time, in order to sort of pull them from one track and stick them on another. And what that means is there's just a lot of back and forth bitsy work, where I'm kind of pulling a couple cars, then going there, then coming back here, grabbing a couple more cars, coming over here, over there. It would be great as if this lead was longer. Now, I designed my track plan from real world drawings of what the yard looked like in 1955, and this is how they did it in 1955. If you wanted to run around your cars, you had to go all the way out to this double crossover here and do it that way. So, you know, one of the things about this layout is just accuracy. I want to give everyone that real accurate feel for what it would have been like to work this yard in 1955. So if they did it this way, they probably had a good reason for it. So that's what I did. Wait a minute. What the? Oh, you sneaky little crossover, you. So during the operating session, I kept saying to myself, if there was a crossover just a little further down towards the yard, it would open up a wealth of possibilities, make this layout a lot easier to work, and I could get it done in a more reasonable time. The op session lasted for 2 hours, and a lot of that was just kind of me having to get around cars because there's just no room, right? Well, as you can see here, I've got a crossover at this point now. Yeah, looking back at prototype photos, I saw out of the corner of my eye that little bit of the crossover peeking out from behind the building. And I realized that my track plan was drawn wrong. There was a crossover right here, and I know exactly why it was there, because they needed it in order to work the yard in an efficient manner. So now, instead of just getting 2 cars on this lead track over here, I can get 5. And having those extra 3 cars is going to make things a lot simpler, a lot easier to work, and I'm going to have a lot more fun working it. Now, in order to get these turnouts to fit, it did require that I do quite a bit of cutting. So modifying turnouts to fit into the spot here wasn't hard, but I took my time to make sure I got it right, and I think I did a pretty good job with it. There's the added complication that this little turnout right here has to be electrically isolated from the rest of the layout, because this is the spot where they would park the locomotive when they're done with the shift, so I want to be able to turn off power to this piece of track right here. But other than that, I haven't had a chance to operate it yet, but I imagine things are going to go a lot smoother. 2 hours, I think, for a layout like this, I think is probably a little much. I want to get it down under the hour and a half, closer to the 1 hour mark, in order to get an operating session in. So I think having this crossover right here is going to help me out quite a bit, getting me to that spot. So lessons taken from this first operating session. I've learned that this layout is a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy some of the unique challenges that it provides. Yeah, I just had a lot of fun overall, and to be able to operate a layout that you've put a lot of time and effort into is, I think, really important for everyone to do. I know I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm looking forward to more operating sessions. That's all for today, folks. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm going to get back to working on the layout. See ya.